Hello, welcome back. Okay, I love the topic I picked for today because it is very near and dear to my heart. And this topic is all about the difference between who you are and who you've had to be. Um, because I think a lot of times this is something I heard a lot from my husband, like, this is who I am. This was before he jumped on his personal development journey. And I'd be like, actually, it's not who you are, it's who you're choosing to be at this moment. But we sometimes get hung up in, well, this is just who I am, when all it really is who you've had to be your entire life to survive. So when I look back on my journey, like, who I had to be was the girl that put on a happy face and kept everybody else happy. I had to learn to walk into a room and read that energy real quick so that I knew how I needed to be so that I could survive. And I don't have to be that anymore. And I do feel like I've always been a genuinely happier, bubblier person. Maybe that's a learned behavior of mine. Maybe that's just, I don't know, who I've always needed to be, but it served me well. But I want you to think about, like, who you've had to be and who you are, because those are two very different things. Who you are is a person who can shift, who can change, who can become somebody new, who can reinvent yourself, who can make different choices. And how freaking amazing is that? That you, like, I feel like I have recreated myself a few times. Like, I am no longer the girl who will walk into a room and, like, shrink myself to just be quiet and fit in and kind of fall under the radar and into the background. And I genuinely, like, walk into a room and I'm like, I want to get to know everybody in here. I love making new friends everywhere that I go. And even the struggles that we've had with, like, my teenage daughter and just some of the boys she runs around with, I'm like, hey, thanks for, like, curating my friend circle, because their moms are all pretty great. But it's just been like this rallying of, like, how can we support our kids? And then I get to make new friends and allowing myself to share the struggles, to share the behind the scenes of, like, what we're going through. And I've come to realize that when we actually open up and show up as who we are and not who we have been, right? Who we are choosing to be in this moment, not who we've had to be to survive up until this point, but who we are. I have realized you are not alone on your journey. I think sometimes we're so afraid, and society teaches us this. The religion I was in taught me this, that no, you just put on a mask. We just put on that happy face and we just show up. And that is not the case. And so if you find yourself sitting there, maybe you're in your car, maybe you're in the shower listening to this, if you find yourself, maybe you're vacuuming, walking around the house, doing laundry, whatever. But if you find yourself like, oh shit, yeah, I actually do that. Yeah, I actually will show up and I will just pretend like everything's good. When somebody asks how I am, I'm say, I'm good. How are you? What if we started answering honestly? What if we started, not that we're going to, like, spew our whole life shit behind the scenes, right? Like, I share the struggles I'm going through, but I'm not going to give you every detail right now. I'm not going to share in a way that's going to call out somebody else that I love, but I'm going to say, look, here's how this has been. My marriage hasn't been that great, and we're now in the process of redefining it, making it what we want, showing up differently for each other. And that took me calling my husband out on his shit. That's going to take him calling me out on my shit. Like, because we have these patterns of how we've had to be to survive. We got married at 19. Like, we were babies having babies. And so who we had to be through that time is not who we are. Now we get to become that best version of ourselves and come back together in this relationship and be like, how do we want to move forward? And so this is the same thing for you, is You get to choose how you want to be, who you are at any given moment. How do you want to show up? What are those core values that you hold near and dear to your heart? And so I want you to really think about today, like, where are you not being honest with yourself? Where are you not being honest with other people? Just like me, when somebody asks, like, how I'm doing, I'm like, life's been a little tough the past few weeks, but we're going to get through it because we are. But it's actually really sucked. It has really sucked having to deal with all of this. It has taken a lot of time. It has taken a lot of energy. And quite frankly, I don't want to, but it's got to be done. It's got to be dealt with. And I have the capacity for it. I have expanded my capacity so much that I can handle a lot of what life throws at me without freaking out. That is not how I have always been. I used to be the freak out mom that would be super overwhelmed and frustrated, and I would just react to everything life threw my way. And I'd be like, well, this is just how life is, just how it goes. BS. Call BS on your own shit. Call BS on your own thoughts. You get a shift at any moment. Who you have had to be to get yourself here is not who you are. You get to decide who you are. That is the most powerful thing in the world. And I just think it's so freaking amazing. This is where breathwork got me. Breathwork got me to shift into who I am, who I wanted to be, show up as her, feel her, be able to tap into her at any given moment and be like, okay, how would this version of me show up? Because this is the version that I want to be and who I am becoming. And so you get to ask yourself the same thing. If you want to book a breathwork session, guys, hit me up. Like, tap into you, find a tool, give yourself the gift of being able to recognize that best version of you is already within you. Find that tool. Breathwork is that tool for me. Breathwork is that tool for so many that's going to help you bypass your conscious mind that is like, nope, this is how things are. This is just who you are. And tap into your subconscious and really tap into who you are, not who your ego is trying to tell you that you are and how things should be. But yeah, we get to decide at any moment. And so when we continue to just dwell and this is just who I am, you're never going to move forward. Like, you're not going to move forward very fast from a place of that. And so calling people around you out, and I'm talking about in a loving way, not being like, hey, your attitude's a little shitty. Maybe you ought to knock that off. Like, allowing that, because that's like even my daughter through this. She's like, I'm a dumbass. I need to get my shit together. And I'm like, whoa, whoa. No, you're not. You're not a dumbass. You might have made a dumb decision, but you are not a dumbass. And so being able to guide our kids through that as teenagers, especially when they're putting so much pressure on themselves to be a certain way, when school is putting so much pressure on them to be a certain way, like, what do we as moms want to teach them? How do we want to show up? Because if we don't show up as the person that we desire to be, how are they ever going to do it? We got to lead by example. And I think that's the biggest thing for me is like, as I stepped into my life coaching business to help other moms show up as who you want to be and create a life that you love with kids in tow, it's about who we are being. It's about who we are choosing to be and finding the support that we need that's going to help us step into that person that we desire to be. Finding the tools that we can utilize. My two oldest still think breathwork's freaking weird. So do my youngest. They're like, I actually don't want to do that with you. But like, I get to lead by example. They see me doing breath work, right? And so when they see me doing breath work, now they're like, oh, okay. And as they get older, it's going to be a little less weird, right? So I want you to really think about like who you've had to be leading up to this point and who you are. Those are not the same. So asking yourself today, who do you want to be? How do you want to show up for yourself? And then what does that look like? Something I always start with, especially with my clients, is like, how do you want your life to feel? Because when we're not showing up authentically as us, it's not going to feel good. And you know what's really interesting is somebody said to me, because I was like, oh my gosh, I have zero mom guilt around the consequences that are coming from this. And she's like, well, that's because you're living aligned with your values and you're putting these boundaries in place that's going to help guide your daughter into making better decisions. And I was like, oh, okay, because that's who I am. I have high values for myself, and I want to live a life of integrity and be within integrity of myself and in integrity with others. And so now helping her navigate how to do that, because I do that. We lead by so much example. We can preach all day long, but unless we are leading by example, they are not going to listen. They are not going to care. They're not going to pick up on that. And so I just want you to really think about that. And so if you were to sit down with a journal today, just asking yourself, who have you had to be to get here? And who are you? Who do you choose to be? Who do you want to be? Sit down and journal on those today. Really think about it, and then start to embody and show up as the person that you desire to be. If you do want any support with this, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm in my DMs all the time on Instagram. Reach out to me there, book a free integrative breathwork session, and I will talk to you next time.